Okay, so this class is designed by big ideas rather than by like chapter 7 or chapter 4. And so it's this idea called backward design, where you're like, okay, 10 years after your students leave your classroom, what do you want them to think about with regard to your topic? And so then you divide it by the topics. And so the first thing that I think is really important, and that I hope in a decade from now, is that you think about is that public speaking is irreplaceable. So that's the first big idea that we start this week. The second big idea that we will move to after that is the audience is the hero. So a lot of people think of public speaking as a space where, oh, I'm the speaker, you have gathered here for my wisdom, and I am so selfless to share it with you. And that's not what we want you to think about with regarding public speaking. Like, you are not the hero in the room, it's the audience. So you want to be audience-centered. You need to think about their time, take it seriously. How can you help them instead of what do I want to talk about, instead of what do I have that might benefit them. The big idea number 3 is that practice makes great speeches and speakers. We will talk a lot about practice. For this period of time, there was this great video about practice that everyone thought was funny. And it was like, we're talking about practice. Are you too young for that, or do you all know that video? It's like a basketball player. Yeah. Yep, talking about practice. So we'll spend a long time talking about practice and how important it is, and even how the most skilled speakers practice. In fact, I think actually sometimes the people who have the least amount of anxiety practice the most, because for some of you, just practicing makes you anxious, and then it sort of is a domino effect. Big idea number 4 is that we want to make messages stick. So we'll talk about the different ways in which how you construct and design your presentations will impact if your audience stays with you and if they remember it after they leave from their time with you. There used to be a gum tree on campus where everyone put their gum, and then they had to cut it down in construction or something, but there's a new one. I just think it's a really weird, gross tradition, but I kind of like it. You know this gum tree? It's kind of by Woodworth. I haven't seen the new one. Anyone know of the new gum tree? Yeah.
Women's for Business.
Oh, it's by the business building now. Great, great. Stick your used gum right there. I guess if you need a piece of gum, there's some for you. Okay, and then big idea number 5 is that great speeches can change the world. And so I think that a lot of us know of historical examples of people who have used speeches to really impact, history. But I want you to think about how speeches can change. It doesn't have to be the world, like, you are the reason why we are going to, take the climate crisis seriously, right? It can be something very small. I know that my world has been changed by a number of speeches that I've heard in the classroom. One of my favorites that I was just talking about this morning is one of my students, because they had a blood disorder, they received plasma. And so they gave a speech on how we should change the approach to plasma, that there's a lot of negative stereotypes for people who donate plasma. And she's like, plasma has saved my life, and it's the one thing that like you could actually gain something from. Often in the pharmaceutical industry, you get nothing from it, but like this, you could get a little bit of cash and it saves my life. So she did all the calculations that if you, from the time you were 18 to the time you were 28, if you gave plasma once a week, and there's all these like bonuses or whatever, how much money you could have before, to put in a college fund for your potential child from when you're 28 and are going to get pregnant, because that was sort of her plan. And it was enormous, right? And of course it had 12% compounding interest and all kinds of things added into it. But it was really, I totally, so when anyone tells me about donating plasma, I love to tell them that story, that the people who receive it are so appreciative of it, and they are happy that you are getting paid to do it, right? And so changing the world doesn't have to necessarily be these large things, even though that we need you in that regard too. But it can be small ways in which you can change people's worlds. So these are the 5 big ideas that we will cover throughout the semester. And they're the things that I hope in 10 years from now, when you think about public speaking, that they still resonate with you.